box. Good, so make sure you're not putting anything personal into the chat box, and we can't use your microphones and your cameras anyway, so you can just use the chat box anyway. So if there is anyone putting something inappropriate, then you may be removed from the session. So please remember that this session is inclusive, as inclusive as possible. And we have also a Burmese interpreter. We have Gaozan today. So if you want to change it to Burmese language at any point, then on the toolbar, you should see a globe sign, and you can change the interpretation. And you also can listen and you can watch, the sign language interpreter. We have Miss Lily, and she's doing the sign language. So if you also need that, that's also there for you. So please, today with our speakers, please use the chat function and please interact as much as possible, give your opinions. Okay, you can ask questions, which we will also collect for the end. If you also have another question throughout the session, you can use the Q&A function. So at the end of the session, I'll give you the link to do the survey, so then you can get your certificate. And as we mentioned already, the recordings will be ready at a later date. So if you do have any problems, or you want to report anything during this session or later on, then please save these emails for the safeguarding team, and you can do that later, because we want these sessions to be as safe as possible. So please do record those emails. And that's it from me right now, and I'm going to pass it over. We have two teachers with us today. We have Tunanda and we have Teacher Nini, and they are going to be giving you a lovely session on productive skills. So welcome, teachers.
Hello, teachers. Thank you for joining today's webinar. I'm Tunanda, and today I'd like to share about enhancing learners' productive skills and implementing feedback mechanisms. My part will be based on writing, and then Siani session will be based on speaking. So in today's webinar, I'd like to share about the writing strategies. Under the writing strategies, there will be two parts: pre-writing and then scaffolding instruction. And after that, there will be another part, feedback strategies. So let's start our today's section. So I like to go with pre-writing activities. So before I move on to what does it mean by pre-writing, I have some questions for the teachers. So I know that here we have lots of teachers who have lots of experiences. At the same time, there will be like fresh teachers, whatever we are learning together. So let's share your idea here in the chat box. So I have two questions for you. The first one is, do you ever do pre-writing activities? Why or why not? And okay, let's start with the first one. Please use the chat box for your answer, teacher. Okay, yes. If you say yes, why? Coloring, okay, yes. There are lots of yes, yeah. As a leading activity, that's great. Okay, to connect with the knowledge is a good answer. Yeah. Okay, good chart, excellent. So what kind of activities do you do? I saw some answers here. Okay, mind mapping. Great. Okay, so let's see why we do pre-writing activity. So it's to improve our students' writing. So if it's about the writing, we need to get the students, about the content, organization, voice. Mainly, we want to activate the students' prior knowledge. We have to connect their background knowledge plus our learning activity. So the pre-writing stage is really important for that one. And another one is we want to improve our students' motivation and creativity. So based on our activities, we can, ignite students' interest in everything. So it will be based on how we use the activities. So let's see what are the pre-writing activities. So here are a list of pre-writing activities. Some of them are very common that we always use, that like brainstorming, pre-writing, journalistic questions. If it's about the journalistic question, we can see all the English questions like in the graphic that you can see, and we have draw pictures and others. But for today, I'd like to show some examples of using the activity of World Bank and responding to tests, and then graphic organizers. So let's see how we can use those activities for the students. Okay, so let's see this example here. So it's about using the word bank. So we give the learner some vocabulary and they have to try, they can try to predict the story. And here, the task for the student is to label the picture. And in the box, you can see the word like Evan, small, pie, pen, something like that. So by giving those vocabulary, students can know about the story, plus they get some vocabulary. So it will be very helpful for the students to write. But let's see how we can extend. So in this example, you can see the teachers can try to give more vocabulary by using the mind mapping plus the lexical approach. It means extending more words. So you can see here, boy, if it's a boy, we can connect with some adjective like surprised, worried, distracted, something like that. And so this is how we can extend the students' vocabulary. But it's not all about that, but we can extend more about that by using the storyboard like this one. The students will be given the transition words for sequencing the event. And the students also will be given the graphic organizer like that, like this one. What happened first, next, and last. So by giving students like this one, it will be very helpful for the students to sequence their story, plus they will already get the story's background, and they will already get the vocabulary. So it will be easy for them to write. So let's see another example. It's about responding to tests. So in this picture, the teachers can see like the two animals, the chunk water and Arctic hare. It's about the expository writing. So it means the students need to explain in their writing. That means expository writing. So it will be, I think, a bit challenging for the students to be able to write like this kind of text, but let's see how we can make it easier for them. So this is the instruction given to the students. So as the title, responding to test, students will be given the text. And according to this example, they have to read the articles about the two animals, and they have to, find the evidence, from the articles, and then compare the two animals, how they adapt to live in their extreme environments. So this is the article that will be given to the students. You can see two articles. The first one is the chunk water, and the second one is the Arctic hare. So, before I am an experienced teacher, I tend to do like that. I just give the students the articles. I support them with some vocabulary, some ideas, but then after I've given the articles, the students look at me like in a, in a distraught way, or I don't know. They don't know. Although we have given them the idea, the vocabulary, still they are confused. They don't really know how to start the writing. So let's see. So this is a very good example how we can break down the tasks for the students to have more confidence in their writing. You can see in the first graphic organizer, the two animal, you know, the category is given, you know, under the titles like appearance, habitat, adaptations, projections. Okay, so let's discuss a bit about this exercise. So I want the teachers to discuss a bit on what are the pros and cons of using this kind of graphic organizer and where we can find the information. Okay, let's see, the students will be given this worksheet, then how they can find the information. Google, sharing ideas each other. Okay, yeah, it's a positive thing. Okay, so what about according to this exercise? Okay, so let's discuss a bit like, is it a scaffolding? Okay, some people say yes. Okay, so scaffolding is very important because, you know, it's using the step-by-step approach. So instead of just giving the articles, we can break down the activity like this one. And after that, the student will also be given the writing prompts here like this in the article, blah, 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 blah. And then, so it's only for the first article. For the second article, we have like this. Okay, in the second source, blah, 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 blah. So it's very useful for the students to get the information. So for this exercise, the students can go back to the article and then fill in the blanks. So finally, they can write the extreme adaptations, you know, as a final writing. So scaffolding is really helpful. It means using step-by-step approach by using some more exercise, you know, by breaking down the activity for a little bit heavy, you know, tasks like this one, you know, like this kind of writing. So if the teachers are really interested in how we can use the scaffolding strategy for writing, you can also find more information through this link. So it's for sixth graders. And when I go into this website, I find it really interesting and helpful for me. So if you have some time, please do research about them. I hope that it's very useful for you. So my first part is about the writing strategy, and I would like to put focus on using the pre-writing activities, and it will be based on the activities that the teacher can really help for the students, not only for the idea, but also for vocabulary, organization, and everything. And it's very important to activate the students' prior knowledge before giving any input to the students. Okay, so let's now go into our next section. It's about the feedback. So how the teachers can give good feedback on writing. So I have some vocabulary list here. So I want the teachers to use the chat and then write it down the words. That means good feedback. Concrete, yes. Specific, useful, exactly. Okay, constructive, balanced, nice. Okay, well organized, nice. Okay, so let's see what are the good feedback means. So I can see some answer in the chat. So exactly they are correct. So let's see. It must be specific, focused, constructive, concrete, useful, yeah, and then balanced. It means both weaknesses and also very strong points of the students. We have to mention both, not only about the mistakes or error, it will be depressing for the students. Okay, now how we can give feedback, in a good strategy. Let's see. So if it's about feedback in the writing, we can focus on two areas, content and then form. Okay, so here you can see a list of feedback strategies. Writing is a very broad term. What I mean is we have different writing activities, writing tasks. We have different purpose in our writing. So, it depends on many things like our students' level, and the style of writing. So there are many criteria we have to think of if it's about the writing. So let's see the strategy now. I think some of the feedback will be very familiar with the teachers. So here we have rubric or checklist, minimum marking or error code, Martinet comments or end comments, oral feedback or conferences, peer feedback or collaboration. So, but you can also see in the PowerPoint that, we have different focus for each strategy. For example, like if it's about rubric or checklist, it's based on the teachers want to give some suggestion on the content and the structure of the writing. If it's about the minimum marking, it's mostly for the form. If it's about the marginal comments, mostly for the adept learners. And for high level, we can use the marginal comments like this, and it mostly for clarity, coherence, and cohesion. Okay, so now I'm gonna give you some examples for some feedback strategy. Okay, this is like the previous example, expository writing. And this is the rubric that teachers can give to the students. And you can see items writing must include. It's not only for the teacher, it's also for the students. I think it's a good worksheet to give to the students before writing. And it can also be given after writing. So they can see the areas or the things that they have to include in their writing. So in this exercise, you can see like all sentences begin with a capital letter, have any punctuation, clear introduction, detailed paragraph, supporting details. So it's clear for the students what they have to put in their writing by giving like this kind of rubric. Now, this is another example of using checklist and explore narrative writing. But, like I've already mentioned, it will be based on many factors, whether we will use the rubric or checklist. So let's think about that for a while. What are the pros and cons of using rubric or checklist? Please share me some ideas in the chat box. Or you can even mention about like what are the challenges of using a rubric. Okay, nice. Balance for all, no bias, no matter who. Nice. Easy to identify students writing. Excellent. systematic, right? Yeah, of course, can easily note the improvement. Objectivity, nice. So what about the, cons? Yeah, exactly. Follow policy. It means the students might not put their creativity in the writing. It is already fixed. Yeah. Right. Help teachers to give feedback systematically, understand well. Can't make the students beat their points from rubric enough. Yeah. That's a very good point. Maybe the students might not worried about other factors, but they can just focus on the rubric. Yeah. But at the same time, it can be the positive things, like the students will not feel depressed for other or worry too much about the other factors. The cons can be like too focused. Yeah, too general, exactly. Okay, so it just depends on the teacher. Sometimes it will take lots of time, for doing rubric for one writing activity. But another thing that you can also do is like maybe connect with other writing activity as well. You can just change a bit about the rubric, and then you can use continuously for the semester or term like that, you see? Okay, so let's move on to another one. It's about using error codes like this one. For example, like this, wrong word, wrong word order error, spelling mistake, like that. Okay, this is another example the teachers can see. Like the teacher write it down, cap, VF, WC. Okay, let's think about this strategy again. So what are the pros and cons of using error code? Self-errors is
And there, we lost Tunanda there for a second.
okay. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's back. Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, let's discuss what are the pros and cons of using error code. Students can be demotivating, time consuming for the students. Exactly. Because some students, they don't want to, they don't want to find out, okay, what me again? The teacher, didn't do correction by herself or himself. Let me learn more. Yeah. That's exactly correct. We must know the students' error code. Yeah. So we have to give the worksheet ahead to the students. Then they will understand what the teacher is trying to mention. Right? Okay. But another good thing can be that the teachers can focus, in just what area he or she wants to give feedback to the students, because we don't need to cover everything, right? So we can, like it must be concrete, it can be specific, right? Specific means that we can give feedback to everything. Okay. So in my part, I give general information about the pre-writing activity, SPETS. In that part, I like to focus on scaffolding instruction. It means that going step by step. Although we give some activities, it might not enough for the students. Maybe like using some graphic organizers, and then some more activities by using step-by-step approach, it will be a lot easier for the students to do the tasks. And for my second part, I would like to mention the feedback strategy, but again, it depends on many factors, how the teacher want to focus, the feedbacks, based on grammar, content, or font, or many things. So this is all about my part, and thank you so much for being patient with me. I just missed 1 second part. Okay, and I hope this information will be helpful for you. And I'd like to hand over to Sayani now. And if you have any questions, we can have some more minutes for Q&A section. Thank you so much.
Hello. Good afternoon, teachers and educators. So in Teacher Chu's presentation, she has talked enough about writing strategies and also for feedback. So in my part, I would like to focus on speaking. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen now. Okay. I hope you can see my screen very well. So in this speaking part, I will be focusing on 2 effective ways that I find it really interesting and also applicable to our learners. And by using these strategies, we can enhance at the speaking skill. The next thing is I would like to focus on giving feedback. So how can we give the feedback? What are the popular techniques that we can apply? And finally, we would like to offer you the takeaway tips for today's webinars. So firstly, I want to pose a question to you. So what hinders students speaking? So what do you think? You can use the chat box to open up your idea. So what can make our students feel afraid of speaking? Use the chat box and open up your idea. Yeah, of course. Shyness, exactly. Yeah, some of the learners may be afraid to make mistakes in front of the class. Yeah, of course. Yeah, they may be afraid because they can't speak very well or they can't connect the ideas. Shyness, exactly. Okay. So now, according to Scott Thornbury, so he said students might not have interest in our lesson, and also they might not bring world relevant knowledge to our class, and sometimes they are lack of motivation to speak and like they don't have any desire. Some of the Myanmar students may think like speaking is the least important skill among the 4 skills. So that's why they have no desire to speak. So many factors may contribute in this kind of factors, and that's why he also suggests, Scott Thornbury also suggests us that we should make our speaking activities easier and then making a baby step, small step for our learners, giving them the smaller chance, they can make it better and they will have a sense of achievement. So that's why my first strategy is drillings and chants. So drilling and chants is a very good way. So it's a noticing stage for our learners, not only for our learners, for the teachers too. We use the drilling after introducing the new language. We drill our students. Then when we drill, we usually choose the specific phrases. So if we choose the specific phrases, we can focus on accuracy, and also it can be an extensive practice in hearing the particular words and sentences and utterances. And then we will try our learners to experience with the target language items by practicing them. So we should remember that it is not a good way to practice all the dialogues. We should break them down so that we can help our learners to articulate, and also we can practice the connected speech. Some of the learners may have some problems in articulation, so that's why we can help with chantings and drilling. So I will give you a moment to look at the 2 dialogues. Okay, then we'll move on to this. Please read the 2 dialogues. Yeah, good. Okay. So in this dialogue, you will see the two person. So talking about birthday. So in this birthday, the teacher is not going to use all the dialogues to practice, but the teachers will choose a snappy and walkable sentence so that the students can practice well. So look at the example. She is going to treat us all. So we can also tweak our drilling techniques by substituting pronouns. She is going to treat me. She is going to treat you. She is going to treat them. And we can start with a slower pace, like she is going to treat us all. Then we can make it faster and faster by linking the sound. She is going to treat us all, like this. So if we give learners such kind of chance, they will have a sense of achievement, and also we can help our learners to articulate clearly and also helping in their pronunciation so that they can improve their speaking skill. That's why in this drilling, so we have the types of drills, core drillings, core drillings, individual drillings, and whisper drilling and shouting drillings. So by using these drillings, so we can effectively help our learners for their articulation. Our learners may know how to make the sentences, subject, how to form the sentences, subject, verb, object, like this, but they might not know how to pronounce or link them. So that's why drilling and chants is a good way for practicing. Back chaining drill is my favorite one. I will show you an example. So I chose catchphrases and idiomatic phrases. I will demonstrate one thing, long time no see. So here, this back chaining drill is also called backward drilling. In this backward drilling, so we can use starting from the word at last one. So see, no see, time no see, long time no see, and then hey, long time no see. So by giving learners starting from a smaller step, baby steps, we are helping our learners to pronounce the words clearly. So it can have attention grabbing style for our learners. We start from the end and then we repeat, we let our student repeat, and finally we have the whole sentence drilling. So this is a very good technique. I've tried a lot, and it is very successful and applicable. And learners feel like, oh, they have full confidence to link the sounds together. I have some tips when it comes to drilling and chants. We should give the teachers models. So I have observed some of the teaching practices, and I noticed that most teachers try to elicit some of the phrases and words from the students. So it is a good way, but sometimes the student may mistakenly pronounce the word. So we should consider about this, and then we should let our student experience with authentic exposure, like using audio tapes. So if the students hear the native speaker words, they can imitate it clearly and then they can pronounce it well. So by helping them repeat 2 or 3 times consistently will help our learners improve their speaking skill. And another strategy that I would like to give is a communicative task. So now let's see what is a communicative task. I have given you an activity for you. I've given initial letters in this short text, so you have to guess what are they. You have to use the chat box and then write down what would it be, starting with I, ME, in. According to NEOM 1989, a communicative task is a piece of class log that, can you please guess the words to fill the blanks? You may use the chat box. Yeah, good try, include. What about the MA? What about in, MF? Okay. I have say include. And then what else more? Maths. Good try. Yeah. Main. Okay. Manner. Okay, what else? What about in? Starting with IN, not in. Introduction. Yeah. Good. Okay. Invoke, intake. Oh, a lot. Good facts. Okay, so remember that it's a communicative task. Okay, meaning, yeah. So now, inclusive. Okay, so now I will just show you the answer and let's observe what is a communicative task. So in this communicative task is a classroom work that involves learners. So the learner will try to comprehend, manipulate, interact with each other. While they are interacting and manipulating the task, they will be focusing on meaning, not the form. So that's the essence of a communicative task. I will give you one example. So I just took this example worksheet from British Council website. This is called information gap activity. So in this information gap activity, there will be student A and also student B. The student B will read out the text and then student A have to complete the blanks. So in this activity, the students are not communicating for this worksheet only. So they are communicating with each other, interacting with each other. They are trying to manipulating the task. If student A doesn't understand what student B said, then student A will try to confirm it using the clarification. If student B pronounced some wrong words, then student B will try to apologize it. They are using the functional language here. So that's why I recommend you to use this kind of communicative task when it comes to speaking strategy. It can also enhance the students' learning style for communication, and it will provide a real life examples. They will trying to practice inside the classroom like actually happening outside. And if they are outside of this classroom, and then they can apply it, they can take it to the next level. So information gap activity or picture differences, role plays are very good activities that we can use to improve our student speaking skill. Okay, so these are my two effective strategies and you can find more. So now let's move on to giving feedback. So I choose the delay feedback. So delay feedback is we give the delay feedback after our speaking activity has done. So here I have just listed sentences here A to D, but all of them are jumbled up together. Can you please rearrange them using the chat box? Does it start with B, C, D or B, C, D, A or something like this? So I will give you a few minutes to work on for that. Please rearrange the sentences, teachers. E first, D A, R D B A C, B D A C. Right, okay. Thank you. Okay, C first. You can directly arrange all of them. Like C and then D B C A. Okay. Good try. Thank you for your active participation. Okay, so now let's look at the answer here. Okay, so BDAC. Okay, congratulations to those who are really correct for this arrangement. Okay, so the first thing we should do is like keep a note of the language while the students are speaking. So we let the student, okay, now student, you have to speak by using the language we have learned. No, that's not a good way. So we should try to monitor our student effectively. And also while we are monitoring our students, so we should give attention to the content they use, the good use of idea, and then the good use of language items, and we should write them down on the board. Okay. After that, we can invite the learners to correct them instead of leading the teachers. I will show you the board plan. That is really good one. Okay, so in this board plan, you can see the first thing is about the great things that the student did in their speaking activity. So do not forget to praise our student, give the specific compliment. So it's a very good, effective way to give feedback. Then I told you while we are monitoring our students, so we have a list of language items that we want our learners to correct. But do not put everything on the ball. That's one of the things that we should remind to remind to ourselves. because students may feel confused. So that's why trying to be selective when we give the feedback. So we give compliments, then we write down the sentences that students can work on for themselves. When we take out the sentences, trying to think of the actionable, timely, workable sentences so that our learners have a sense of achievement when they do it by themselves. Another thing that we can execute the board plan is by blanking out the mistakes. Instead of giving the mistake directly, we can blank out the mistake. So in this way, students have like more interest in our giving feedback style. So that's why we should try to vary the style of giving feedback. Okay. So next one. Now I've talked a lot and I want you to think about this. Do only teachers give feedback or should only teachers give feedback? What do you think? You can open up your idea by using the chat box again. I'll be checking your ideas and understanding. Do we only need to give feedback to our learners? Both, yeah. Both. Why? Why both? Okay. So what will be the pros and cons if we give feedback, if we lead the feedback? And what if we ask our learners to, yeah, of course, peer feedback. Yeah. No, yeah. So tell me why no? Tell me, claim your reasons. Both. Okay. Okay. Could you please write down your reason? Just rational, please. Self-assessment, very good. Yeah, it's a good trying to self-assessment. Both teachers and classmates. Yeah, it can enhance learner autonomies. Good. Okay, good claim. Peer feedback, yes. Give me the reason, the rationale that you choose. Not necessarily because students are eligible too, of course. Yeah, student can lead the class. Exactly. Learners from each other. Yeah, learn from each other. Exactly. Not only teachers should give feedback, the whole class can give. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so teachers, very great idea. So yeah, my answer is also no. We shouldn't give feedback by leading always. So we can also invite the learners to correct by themselves. This is called self-correction. So when we invite the learners to correct themselves, we have to remember that we need to give achievable task to our learners. So if it is very complex, so student might be puzzled and they might get lost while they are correcting themselves. And for the collaboration skill of the 21st century, we can have pairs work together and then class work together to correct the mistake that we are giving, that we give to our students. And finally is teacher correction. Teacher correction is a good way, especially for the younger learners, so the teachers can lead and elicit it, right? Okay, so now I'll be moving on to the popular techniques. So in this popular techniques, the first thing is about implicit feedback. The teacher will give the direct feedback. So metalinguistic feedback. Metalinguistic feedback means teachers will use terminology from the book. Like for example, regular, irregular, use irregular. Is it regular or irregular? You can ask the students like, is it noun or verb or adjective, past participle, like this. This is called metalinguistic feedback. It's a good way to try. If the levels are higher and they know the terminology of the language, it's a very good way to try. And then next one is elicitation. That's my favorite one. So elicitation. So in this example, the apple is eaten by the boy. We can elicit more by asking the follow-up question to our learners. So is the apple a thing or is the apple a person? So can the boy eat it? Like this. So I love this because I'm also involved in this elicitation and also my students are trying to correct it by themselves. They also involve it. So we can enhance the teachers and learners interaction too. So these techniques are really great. Next one is about explicit feedback. In this explicit feedback, so the first thing is explicit correction. Teacher directly corrected, use this, use that. For example, use past simple, use a, use on. So the teacher directly state the mistakes and also correct it. So if it is a very demanding task and if you don't have much time, we can use the explicit feedback. We can give the direct feedback to our learners. And next one is about recurse. Recurse is about the repetition. Okay, the teacher will repeat what the student said in a correct way. So if the student forget S, the teacher will put S in the agreement, subject verb agreement. He speaks English as the example shown here. The last one is about clarification. In this explicit feedback, I love clarification the most. Clarification request. So, for example, if my students keep using present simple when they describe the past event, I usually show my facial expression like this, and then the student correct it directly. And then we do not interrupt our students by telling do this, and then no, it's not that. Instead of saying like this, we can use our gesture and facial expression to correct it. So these are the popular techniques that we can use it. Okay. So here I would like to give you some feedback tips. Okay. So when we give feedback to our learners after the speaking task, please give compliment, specific compliment. Like I said, we can write it on the board, or we can just have like some of the sticky notes, and then we can put it on the wall. And these are the good things that you did. And then trying to avoid pointing out all the mistakes and errors. So it might be demotivating and discouraging for their learning journey. So as I said, most of the students might be like challenging tasks is speaking skill. So they might be no interest and demotivated. So that's why we should plan to monitor our students not only inside the classroom, trying to maximize our monitoring skill. After that, we should be very supportive when we give the feedback. Supportive not only outside in the class but also inside in the class, because safeguarding is really important. So that's why I'm trying to be selective and also like supportive to our learners. Okay, so these are my parts, and I hope you have a great session. And now it's the time. What are the key takeaways for today's webinars? Not only for this speaking part, but also for the writing part too. Okay, you can use the chat box. And tell me, what are your key takeaways? What have you got today? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, feedback, scaffolding, baby stuff, of course. Yeah, okay, thank you. So, teacher two, now it's time to wrap up our webinar by giving some of the takeaways, useful takeaways for the educators and the teachers. So please do not forget to help articulation while before the speaking test is given to our learners, and also try to give a purposeful real-life related activities like a communicative task. Okay, teacher two, please add some more takeaways for our teachers and educators.
Yes, so it's surely about the speaking strategy. Please don't forget to use the pre-writing activities, and then try to add the scaffolding technique in doing the pre-writing activities. And for the feedback strategy, please try to think about the purpose, what you want to give to the students, and based on different types of writing activities, style, and everything, you have to think about the feedback strategy. And whatever we are doing the feedback, we have to be specific, and we can't give everything to we can give like every feedback to the students. It will be demotivating for the students. Yeah, I think these are the the key takeaway for me. Yeah, thank you, Zia.
Okay, so I would like to reinforce more things like trying to be selective, trying to be constructive. I know most of Myanmar teacher would like to correct everything right. So overzealous correction is some of the things that we should be mindful of. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating in our webinar. And it's a very lovely session. And thank you so much.
Thank you very much, teachers. I love the word overzealous. I haven't heard that word for a long time. And then Nini said this word, overzealous
Yes.
correction. I think that's true, that sometimes we do want to correct everything. And then, of course, what do you think happens? What happens if you think about this time when the teacher, especially when you're the learner, also, if you think about when you're the learner and what happens when the teacher corrects like so many things or corrects you instantly when you're talking, sort of what happens to the learner when the teacher corrects too much? What do you think? Nini and too, that question is for you. What happens to the learner?
Yeah, for me, so I have tried this because one of the Myanmar teacher, and when my students have lots of mistake in the speaking, and then I directly correct it and I interrupt it. Then over sometimes then my student like show, no teacher, let me speak, let me speak first. You have to listen to me first, then you should correct it at the end of my speaking. Like
They say that to
let us
you? Yeah.
yeah, let us know. That's my real anecdote. So let us know how we are correcting, how we are supporting. So that's why if we overcorrect it, so we might have a negative backlash from the students, and it might be a demotivating for them in their learning journey. So trying to be selective.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
hard, isn't it? Sometimes it's really hard sometimes just to stop yourself as the teacher, because you can spot so many things and you think that will be so helpful. I'll be really helpful if I just give that. But of course, they're not gonna, it's more annoying because as the speaker, it's really funny if your student says to you, like, just let me talk. It's like,
Yes.
oh, yeah, you're right. So Nanda, what do you think?
Um, yeah. For me, I like to share about, my experience as a student, when my teacher give me a lots of feedback, like, with red line, I don't want to see that writing anymore. So
Yeah.
since that time, I try to avoid, yeah, by giving, like lots of correction, with red line.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the same thing for writing. Also, if the teacher goes too much over puts too many notes, also, what is the learner going to do with it? We were talking about this before. If the teacher gives you some written points on your paper, if there's no follow-up, then if there's no task for the student to repeat it, and make those corrections, they can easily take all your corrections, all that work that you've just done, and be like, thank you. And then they don't have to look at it again. So if they're not going to, so that's also another task, like you said, Tunanda also had that. So having the frames and the prompts, and then also having another task where maybe they have to do a final draft. And maybe they can display it on, then everyone can do like a gallery walk. But somebody did ask before, do they have to do the final draft? What do you think about that? Doing this, so they do that, you give them some corrections. Do they have to do the final copy? What do you think? Tunanda, this question's for you.
Sorry, could you repeat that again?
Yeah, do they have to? So when you gave them the writing prompts and the frames, and then there's the final copy. Do they always have to do the final copy? What do you think?
I think it depends. But it's better if they have the final one, final draft. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's better if they have it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, there's I want to ask about Nini, you were showing us the board work.
Yes.
For the delayed feedback, which I
Yes.
think is always good to see, because we don't see boards very much. Actually, even as teachers and even in teacher development, I think we don't talk about what our board looks like actually that much. So I think that was useful to see that. And what how many points, it's a question for both of you still, how many points during that delayed feedback, like when the teacher is selective, how many points do you think that we can put there? And do you need to plan your board? That's 2 questions.
Yes, for me, if we are teaching with the whiteboard, so we should plan it. Sometimes, it is time consuming, like writing in front of the class, and it may be time consuming, but we should try to prepare for this. And this is the preparation for the board plan. And another thing is if we have the overhead projector, and then we can just simply type it in our computer or laptop, and then we can just directly put it on the overhead projector. So that is the plan. And then for the points, we should have the good points first, maybe 4 or 5 points. Then for the younger learners, so I want to suggest that we shouldn't give a lot for the younger learners. They might be very confusing if they see such kind of, wow, oh, teacher is a list. How can we solve this? Okay, for the younger learners, trying to minimize the points. For the adult learners and for the higher levels, so we can try to shape them. We can correct the way that we give the feedback. We can correct it. If the learners are trying to see the exams, so we can correct it by giving a list of things, but trying to think about the learner's background and also the characteristics. So that's one of the important things that we should do before we teach needs analysis. If our learners are very motivated to learn the language, like this, we have so many factors to consider if we give the points. But my answer would be satisfactory ones for the questioner.
For me, if it's about the board plan, I think like 4 or 5 points will be enough. And then sometimes we can predict ahead like what kind of mistakes can students make. If it's about the grammar or the form, and then we can just get the evidence, from the students when they are doing the activity. So by this way, we save some time, and we will also be prepared like how to give feedback in a short way. And I also see one question, like how we can encourage for the students to do the final version. I think it's about the writing, I think. So for me, I would encourage students to do the final version, like by telling the positive and also the positive things first, like how they are gradually improving. Like, like I mentioned, we have a scaffolding instruction. So they are doing all the activities step by step. So we have to prove them how they have well prepared their writing, by gradually, pointing out the better version of them. So I think it's motivation that we have to put on, for the students. But at the same time, we have to mention a weak point of them, but only 2 or 3, I think, would be enough. Because if it's about final version, if we are mentioning too many factors, again, the students, won't want to do that again. I think so.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, that you don't want to keep making them do it. If there's no point, if they're not improving something for that time, maybe they don't need to do it again. Maybe they don't need to do a final draft. Maybe you already did it. So maybe it's time for a new task. So you don't want to repeat the same one over and over. Maybe it's time to think. So, and that's the thing, that's what we want them to do. If there's something in that writing task that they're not getting right, maybe they haven't mastered that skill yet, or maybe they haven't properly learned that grammar point. So then it's probably a good idea to give them a new task with a topic so they can try it again in a new way if they haven't quite got it. Or maybe then you have to go back, you have to reteach grammar point. So it's really, again, like you guys have been saying, about the baby steps, about breaking it down, about trying to find each small point. Because for the productive skills, if the task is too big and too difficult and there's still a lot of errors, then you just have to go back. You have to go step and see what you need to fill in. Yeah, and there was a good, you also made a good point there too, Nanda, about thinking ahead about the anticipated problems. This is a real key point. This is a real essential thing for the teacher to try and think ahead. But I'd say this is a very difficult thing to do sometimes. I don't know if you agree with me, but for me, it's also difficult to think about what mistakes are my might my students make? So the teacher can
Mhm.
prepare for those. And that's quite a
Mhm.
difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
Okay, we do have one question that's one question that's sort of about speaking, but also with having just low-level learners in general. They're talking about classroom language. So this is sort of it's related, but it's more related just to low-level learners and speaking. And do you think that you should use English as the classroom language all the time? And what if the students don't understand? Or should you teach all the classroom language in day one? Or can you teach all the classroom language in day one?
Okay, so I don't think we can teach all the classroom language at the start of the first day. So the first day we usually have a fan activities for all the learners. At the time we can introduce them. For the classroom language, please try not to use the high words. So grade down the language. Teacher language grading down is one of the factor here. So if we grade down the language, and also we can demonstrate in front of the students. So for example, if you have already take the book from the shelf, then you have to put it back like this. We can demonstrate it easily using the classroom language in a easier way, breaking down our teacher's language. Then we can let our students know what we are talking about. So that's a good way, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tunanda, what do you think?
Sorry, I missed the question. I think it's only for speaking. Sorry,
We're
what
just
is
talking
it?
about, that's okay. That's okay. We're just talking about classroom language and
Ah,
how much you should.
for the classroom language.
Yeah.
I think I agree with Siani for most of the parts. We don't need to give everything. Just a key language. I think that's enough for the students. And also, I think it will depend on the skills the teacher want to focus on. If it's about the writing, then what are the common language the teacher will use, and also for the students, what they have to use. So we can select like that based on the class.
Yeah, I think it's a good question, and one we still talk about, but should we be speaking in English completely with the learners? But yes, I think it depends on the group also. But yes, you can't expect the learners to understand you right from the beginning. So if you are okay with that they won't understand you, but then you have to find your ways of how can you show them the meaning, like being very physical all the time, of showing what that is, and like you said, using the keywords and really breaking it down to keep it really simple. So always thinking about what they are understanding. But the goal is that in the end they can understand all the classroom language in English, if you can get there. Okay, well, I think we have come to the end of the session. We have come to the end of the session today, so unfortunately we cannot have any more questions today. So thank you very much. Thank you to everybody for joining us today. And if you have been with us for the other sessions, I know there's definitely some other people that have come to every single session for this takeaway series. So thank you very much for joining us, and also well done to you for joining us for your own professional development, to help your learners, to help yourself, of course, as a teacher, to help you, but also this is all to help your learners also. So it's much, much appreciated. Thank you very much. So remember, if there's other things that you want to know, if there's still lots of professional development, we have the teachingenglish.org website that you can go to this website to find so many tips and tricks and professional development courses and lesson plans and activities and songs and games and so many things that you can find, but lots of also other webinars you can. Yes, I've just put the PDF into the chat box, so you should be able to find it there. I'm going to put it in again because sometimes people miss it, and then I put it in about 8 times. So thank you very much. I'm going to also show you here is the survey QR code. Why do I always forget what this is called? Here is the link for the post survey. So please do also use this link And so you can get the certificate, but also because we want the feedback. We've been talking about feedback today and how important it is. So please do give us your feedback about the sessions and try to be honest about the sessions that you've liked or what you found most useful, what kind of things that you found useful, and think about how the best thing for us is to find out how can we make it the most practical for you. And hopefully we've given you some practical ideas for you to take into your classroom that you can try out immediately in your classrooms. If you haven't tried back drilling before, then I definitely think this is one thing to try. And if you can try that out in your classroom, especially with a long phrase, it's a really good thing that you can just try immediately in your classroom tomorrow. I highly recommend trying the back drilling. So today, this is the last session of the series for now. These webinars will be available on either the Teaching English or the British Council Myanmar page, so you'll be able to find them later. So thank you very much to everyone for joining. And that is the end of the session today. So please have a nice evening. And thank you, teachers. Would you like to say goodbye, farewell?
Thank you so much for joining. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.